Somewhere in your bathroom, there's probably a serum you were excited about. Maybe it promised firmer skin, or fewer fine lines, or that glow everyone talks about. You used it faithfully for a few weeks, and then, quietly, you stopped believing in it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The serum was probably never the problem. Most women aren't failing at skincare because they chose the wrong products. They're failing because of something almost nobody explains: the order in which those products are applied, the time given between each layer, and the amount used of each one. Get those three things wrong, and even the most expensive serum in the world will barely reach your skin. It's not the product, it's the sequence. If you're somewhere between 40 and 70, your skin has probably changed in ways that feel unfamiliar. It may be drier than it used to be. It may take longer to recover after a bad night's sleep, a stressful week, or a change in season. And skincare, which once felt simple, now feels like a shelf full of promises that don't quite deliver. This video isn't about buying more products. It's about understanding a principle that has long been part of Japanese-inspired skincare routines. Not as a rigid ritual, but as a simple, practical logic. Apply from the thinnest texture to the thickest. Allow each layer time to be absorbed, and use the right amount of the ingredients that actually do the work. This idea isn't exclusive to any single culture, and it certainly isn't tied to any one brand. It's really about how skin absorbs moisture and active ingredients. Once you understand the logic, you can apply it to whatever products are already sitting on your shelf, regardless of where they came from. Let's start with the order itself, because this is where most routines quietly go wrong. Imagine a woman named Aiko in her late 50s, getting ready for bed. She reaches for 4 bottles: a hydrating lotion, an essence, a serum, and a cream. For years, she applied them in whatever order she happened to grab them. Some nights the cream went on first, other nights the serum did. She never noticed much difference because there wasn't one worth noticing yet. The order was quietly working against her the entire time. The logic behind this kind of layering is simple. Apply products from the lightest, most watery texture to the thickest. A lotion, sometimes called a toner in Western routines, preps and softens the skin so it can better receive what comes next. An essence follows, delivering hydration a little more deeply into the surface layers. Serum comes after that, since it usually carries the concentrated active ingredients, the part of your routine you're actually paying the most for. Cream comes last, sealing everything in and helping to prevent moisture loss throughout the night. If cream goes on first, it creates a barrier. Everything applied afterward, including that expensive serum, simply sits on top of the cream instead of reaching the skin underneath. It's a small, easy mistake, but a genuinely costly one. Over months and years of repeating it. The second detail that matters just as much is timing. Most people apply all 4 products back to back, finishing the entire routine in under a minute. Each layer barely has a moment to settle before the next one arrives on top of it. Giving each layer roughly 30 to 60 seconds before applying the next one may allow the skin to absorb more of what was just applied, rather than having it pushed aside or diluted by the next product arriving too soon. This isn't about turning your evening into a lengthy ritual. It's a short pause, often just long enough to brush your teeth, tie back your hair, or simply take a breath before moving on to the next step. Here's what makes this principle genuinely useful, rather than one more thing to remember. It doesn't depend on any specific product line. Whatever skincare you already own at home, regardless of brand, price, or country it was made in, can usually be layered correctly just by paying attention to its texture. If a product feels watery and light, it likely belongs earlier in the routine. If it feels rich, dense, and heavy, it likely belongs at the end. You don't need matching bottles from the same collection. You need to look, feel, and understand where each one fits. This means you don't need to buy anything new to begin doing this correctly tonight. You simply need to reorganize what's already sitting on your shelf and start paying attention to texture rather than habit. There's another pattern worth mentioning gently because so many people fall into it without realizing. Many of us spend generously on a rich, luxurious-feeling cream, while spending comparatively little on serum. Even though serum is usually where the more concentrated active ingredients actually live, cream's main job is to lock in moisture and support the skin's protective barrier. That matters, but it isn't typically where most of the visible, active work happens. If your budget is limited, prioritizing a good serum over an expensive cream may be the more effective choice if you're hoping to see visible change over time. This isn't a universal rule that applies to every skin type or every situation, and individual needs vary considerably, but it's worth pausing to reconsider where your money is actually going and whether it's going toward the part of the routine doing the most work. One more detail gets overlooked constantly, and it may explain why serum sometimes feels like it simply isn't working. Serum tends to absorb more effectively when the skin is still slightly damp from the essence or lotion applied just before it, rather than fully dry. Gently patting the product into the skin, rather than rubbing it across a dry surface, may also support better absorption into the deeper layers. This single adjustment is often the real difference between someone feeling like nothing is happening after weeks of use and someone gradually noticing a change. It costs nothing to try, and it doesn't require purchasing anything new. It simply asks for a small shift in timing and technique. Finally, it's worth saying clearly that not every step needs to happen every single day. Using every active serum daily isn't necessarily better, and for some skin types, daily use of certain actives can lead to irritation, redness, or increased sensitivity rather than improvement. Some active ingredients are more appropriately used a few times a week rather than every day. If you notice persistent irritation, unusual dryness, or a reaction to any skincare product that doesn't settle after a few days, it's worth pausing that product and speaking with a dermatologist or healthcare professional, since individual skin needs and sensitivities can vary widely from person to person. It's also worth thinking about when these steps happen, not just how. Mornings and evenings don't need to carry the same weight. In the morning, the priority is usually protection. A lighter layering routine followed by sunscreen, since daytime hours expose skin to sun and environmental stress that can undo a lot of the work done overnight. In the evening, there's more room for the richer, more active steps, since skin does much of its repair work while you sleep, without daytime interruptions like heat, pollution, or makeup sitting on top of it. Treating morning and evening as two different routines rather than repeating the exact same steps twice a day tends to make better use of both time and product. It's also fair to expect this to take time. Skin doesn't change overnight, and the kind of gradual improvement people hope for from a better layering routine usually becomes noticeable over several weeks of consistent use, not a single application. This is part of why so many people give up too early. They apply a serum for 4 or 5 days, don't see an obvious difference, and quietly conclude it doesn't work. Consistency, applied correctly, tends to matter more than any single product's marketing promise. Aiko didn't change what she owned. She changed how she used it, the order in which she reached for each bottle, the short pause she began giving between layers, the way she started applying serum to slightly damp rather than dry skin, a more honest look at where her money was actually working hardest, and a little more patience with the process itself. Small adjustments, no new purchases required. This is really the heart of the idea. Healthy aging often isn't about chasing some rare, exotic ingredient or discovering a secret nobody else knows. It's about using what you already have with a little more understanding, patience, and intention. There's a broader point hiding inside all of this, one that goes beyond skincare itself. So much of the frustration around aging comes from feeling like effort isn't being rewarded, like you're doing the right things and still not seeing the results you hoped for. Often, the issue isn't effort at all, it's precision. A few small corrections applied consistently tend to matter far more than starting over with something new and expensive. That's true for skincare, and it's often true for the other habits that shape how we feel and how we age. Sleep, movement, nutrition, stress. The instinct to buy a solution is understandable, but the more sustainable path is usually to look more closely at what you're already doing and adjust it with a bit more care. Aging well was never about chasing the impossible idea of looking 25 forever. It's about small, sustainable habits, the kind that respect your skin, your time, and your budget in equal measure. You don't necessarily need 4 new products to feel like your routine finally makes sense. Sometimes all it takes is understanding the order in which you already reach for the ones you have. If there's one thing worth remembering after all of this, it's that your skin has never needed you to spend more. It has needed a little more attention to the details that don't show up on the label. The order, the pause, the pressure of your fingertips, the patience to wait a few weeks before judging whether something is working. None of that costs anything extra. It simply asks you to slow down for the few minutes you are already spending in front of the mirror. Because taking care of yourself, at any age, has never really been about doing more. It's about doing it right.